This is the history of the second-generation Pontiac Firebird. An all-new Pontiac Firebird was introduced for 1970 and represented a new high for Pontiac styling. To give it a bumperless appearance, the front bumper and grille were molded out of Enduro rubber and painted the same color as the car. The sides sported rounded full-wheel cutouts without any extra trim. The Camaro had more squared-off wheel cutouts. The suspension was revised, and a rear stabilizer bar was added. The Firebird lineup was reduced from 6 to 4, and the convertible was eliminated. At the bottom of the lineup was the base Firebird, whose Pontiac 250i6 was replaced by a Chevy-built 250i6, rated at a meager 155 horsepower. Next up was the Esprit, which featured the Pontiac 350 V8, rated at 255 horsepower. The Formula 400 featured a unique twin-scooped hood, rated at 335 horsepower. At the top was the Trans Am, which was fitted with air dams across the bottom of the front and in front of the wheels. A large deck lid spoiler and small spoilers in front of the rear wheels completed the package. The aero pieces were claimed to generate 50 pounds of downforce on the front and rear of the car at highway speeds. Also standard on Trans Ams is a shaker hood scoop that feeds the Ram Air 2 engine in the rear. Optional on the Trans Am was the Ram Air 4 engine. Only 88 copies were made. Rarer still was the Ram Air 5. A 4-speed Hurst shifter was standard, but a 3-speed turbo Hydromatic automatic was available. Inside, complete instrumentation, including a tach turned on its side to redline at 12 o'clock just like a race car, completed the performance image. Its European styling gave it some instant class, and its suspension was one of the best tuned of any car, including the Corvette. The Trans Am was now available in either polar white or lucent blue, with contrasting stripes, a relatively modest bird stencil at the tip of the nose, and the words Trans Am across the rear spoiler. The 1971 Pontiac Firebird saw little styling change, but it gained high back bucket seats. In order to satisfy General Motors' decree that all engines had to run on unleaded gasoline to meet federal emission standards, the engine options were significantly altered. The 455 high-output engine was the only engine available in the Trans Am. The blue and white paint scheme was retained by the Trans Am, as were the functional hood scoops and aero parts. Although the 455 engines available in the Trans Am were less powerful than the 1970 Ram Air 4 engine, their 480 foot-pound of torque and less temperamental nature made them easier to drive on the street, and were one of the high points in a time when performance was on the decline. 1972 was a disastrous year for Firebird. GM executives considered dropping the Firebird altogether, as sales fell drastically as the muscle car market collapsed, which was worsened by a crippling 174-day strike at the only plant that produced Firebirds. Pontiac executives were able to eventually save the Firebird, and it continued with very little change from 1971, except that its engines were now rated in net SEA numbers. Pontiac's famous honeycomb wheels also made their first appearance in 1972.